Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Reginald the Vampire. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode, Nikki, our should-be assassin, has now fallen in love with Reginald. And Reginald's like, cool, let's get out of here after Maurice explained to him. Because he's like, once again, I don't think, maybe somewhere, because Maurice kind of talks about it later on about giving into your instincts. Maybe on some level, because his his glamoring of vampires typically means like he has to touch them and glamour them like he would a human. So why is it that, because I don't know. Because we still don't really have a clear-cut answer of what happened. It could just be like something in Reginald spoke to her, and like maybe after all these years, it's just something about him like made her heart flutter, and it's like, whoa. And now he's in a situation where it's like, yeah, two women are in love with him. The girl he's been in love with for such a long time, and a woman that's a legitimate, not even like being an exaggeration, a literal psychotic killer is in love with you, so. And, it happens all at the wrong time because him and Sarah have their first kiss, and it's awesome, and it's cute, and it's amazing. But then Nikki sees it, and Nikki's upset, which she actually went to Angela and was like, yeah, I'm giving you a refund. Because it's like, wait. Angela's like, no, you never give refunds. Your package deal says like, yeah, no refunds and stuff like that. It's like, no, yeah, it's a refund. Thank you. It's like, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have met Reginald. And Angela's like, no. It can't be that you're actually in love with Reginald. And it's like, she is. So, which is sad too, because Ashley's totally into her, and then Ashley inadvertently helps her, gives her advice she needs, because it's like, because she shows up to kill Sarah because Sarah's her love rival, and it's like, no, but it's like, wait, because now it's this situation of she ended up giving advice to both Sarah and Nikki, unintentionally with Nikki, but intentionally she gave the advice to Sarah, because it's like, the fact of the matter is, Reginald being Reginald, he has no game, so you need to be the ones to make the first move, Sarah. So she was suggesting like, right, you guys want to have sex, like you gotta like kind of steamroll that ahead. So, and because Angela got to Maurice saying, hey, how do you know that girlfriend of his doesn't actually know about him being a vampire and stuff like, because it's like, right, when we kill Reginald, it won't just be you that dies, Maurice, because of this, but everyone that knows his secret as well, which Maurice doesn't know that he ended up telling, it's his friend, like, what, I keep blanking on her name all the time, it's Claire, right? I believe so. Once again, problem with watching too many shows at the same time, like, names kind of blurred again. I want to say her name is actually Claire. I keep forgetting it all the time. She's the one that wants to actually be a vampire. I wonder what her thoughts would be, considering, Reginald's current circumstances. It'd be interesting if it was actually, Nikki that ended up making her a vampire. That'd be weird and interesting, because like, well, for one way, because she likes Reginald, and it could be like, oh, I'm gonna turn one of your friends, this is a friend that you care about who already wants to be a vampire, like, oh, she's almost like our daughter, something wild like that would be it. And also Nikki's crazy enough to do something like that, so I don't know. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think that I could see Reginald talking to her about it, because Maurice is just like, stay away from Nikki. She's a killer. She's psycho. Like, I've seen her drain this world of enough blood. She could literally feel the Nile of how much blood she spilled over the years. So, I don't know. That puts Reginald in this very like complicated spot, really. And I love all the Nikki stuff, because I like how psychotic stalker she is. Even like when they were on their third date, I thought that was so cute and funny when she was just kind of like, he's like, wait, is that blood? And she's like, yeah. He's like, you need to get out of here. She's like, yeah, but my shift isn't until midnight. And I'm like, you killed the guy. And you're like, I'm gonna keep up his shift. Because I can only assume she killed the guy and is there in person. I guess, like, not unless she showed up and like, oh, I'm filling in for so-and-so. And the boss is like, sure, this is your shift time. Like, the fact that she wants to see her shift all the way through, I'm like, you're such a psycho, Nikki. It's like, oh, you're easily becoming one of my favorite characters. I love it. We've only had 2 episodes with you, and I love you so much because you're so psychotic. But the fact is that, kind of interrupting their third date, and obviously it complicates things because Sarah's like, yo, I'm about to take you to this hotel room and get you laid, homie. And it's like, oh, dude. Because it makes me think, because I was thinking about it the entire time. I was like, because isn't that a line of like, from that Little Dicky song, Ex-Boyfriend? But what I thought was also interesting too is that him and Angela had an actual like heart to heart conversation. It's like, right, the assessment wasn't just, it was a few months away. Now it's gotten moved up because Logan is like, yeah, he's kind of busy schedule. So it needs to be moved up. And him and Angela had this conversation about like, you know, love to some extent. Cause it's like, oh, Maurice has got my back. And she kind of talks about, you know, like, oh, like, it's like, yeah, like love can't be like worth dying for. But she's like, I know like, you know, how kind of great it can be at times. And he's like, oh, you're talking about Maurice. Like, he had your back too. And he's like, look at us finding common ground. Two vampires up here talking about love. She's like, I still want you dead as dirt. And he's like, well, every relationship has its complications. I love that they were like actually bonding a little bit. I love that. He's just like, man, vampires are fucking weird, you know? So it's like, yeah, cause she's like, yeah, I hate your guts, but there is some interesting camaraderie there is at. I mean, because they both like cared for Maurice, and Maurice cared for at least one of them at one point in time. He's still got the Herbal Cross situation that he's setting up because he wants to help with that. You know, he's got to stop Angela before she has an opportunity to kill Reginald. It's like, for him, it's like, yo, I think Reginald's like that is, I don't know if Reginald's the first person that he's sired before or not. And, you know, and that might be why he's so protective of Reginald, because it's like, right, you're practically like a son to me. I mean, might even be like, no, you're like a little brother to me, that I do care about you, because it might be the first time he's ever done this of his own, you know? So because of everything, he might have had his reservations about, especially now having the context of what happened to his mom, he probably might have had reservations about turning anyone, other people. We don't know, but he made an exception with Reginald because Reginald was dying, and because I think he sees a lot of himself in Reginald. Like, you're so like young and in love and optimistic. He's like, yeah, I was that at one point in time, and that's why he wants things to work out for Reginald and Sarah. Because I'd actually, I think I started to talk about it, but I moved away from it. Is that Maurice went to go see Sarah, sat down and talked to her, and it's like, right, because she feels like, yeah, Reginald's like, if, you know, she's worried because it's like, and it's that beautiful thing of like a relationship of like, right, we can talk about absolutely nothing, and then at the same time we can also talk about everything, and it's like they're so madly in love with each other, but for her, she feels like Reginald's holding back, and he's like, yeah, Reginald's going through some stuff, but give him some time, and because, you know, Maurice is legitimately rooting for him. Even told Reginald, was like, I'm starting to believe in you too. Reginald was like, really? He's like, yeah. So like, concentrate and focus. And I love Reginald just like found, instead of like punching the center block or whatever, he gets a hammer, smashes it. He's like, see, like this hammer was like my calm, my resolve, and that hammer, I mean, the center block was the assessment. It's like Maurice just kind of smiles like, yeah, because that is Reginald's biggest asset is his brain. Like he was already kind of a smart dude, and I think being a vampire just made him even smarter. So I think that's going to be a key aspect of him going forward, you know? But there's also the Mike thing. We find like Mike is hooking up with one of like Angela's subordinates. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I was like, to be fair, like she was part of the foursome between her, Mike, Angela, and Maurice, wasn't she? So I was like, oh, it kind of makes sense if that's the case. And so they're doing their thing, and Mike talks about, yeah, he wants to make things right. You know, it's like, right, I set someone up to die that doesn't deserve to die. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to save the fat vampire. And she just kind of laughs, almost like, oh my God, you're going to try to stop Angela to save him. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's just who he is. Like, there's just something about his magnetic personality that's attracted so many, like, yeah, like, even to the point, like, Mike's having his regrets about wanting to do, and wants to do the right thing. Maurice wants to do the right thing. I think even Angela, like, she despises him, but I think even she gets caught up and swept up of, like, something about him, too. And we see what happens with Nikki. So there's just something, I think it might just be that kind of, like, Kingdom Hearts reference of the day. It's kind of like Sora. Sora just naturally has this magnetic connection with the people around him, that those people are like ready to go to bat for him. They've got his back, and he's got these special connections, these ties with people. And I think like Reginald's kind of got that with all these other people in his life, you know? So. But what was also surprising is we find out Angela has a human lover. I was like, wow, really? You? But it's like, that's so interesting. And it's a mom, and it's with the relationships with the mom who's got like it's like wow. And who knows, like, because apparently this has been going on for a while. I guess it's happened in the time her and Maurice have been away. Because you would never think Angela would be sympathetic to fall in love enough to fall in love with a human, but like, so that's why, like, I guess that's once again Reginald was even more so right. They have even more in common about that. And because she's like, yeah, she doesn't know the ins and outs of the human world, but she's like, yeah, whatever it is, if plan A and plan B didn't work, plan C works because maybe plan C is like right in front of your eyes. And so it does seem like she glamours her lover, but I don't know what she glamours her to be. Because it's like, right, I don't want you to know you, because her lover's like, I want to know everything about you, because it's like loving you, but kind of not knowing everything. It hurts, it hurts. It hurts not to know what hurts you, because you want to be able to be there and be supportive for the person you care about. But Angela's like, yeah, you know too much and it could end up hurting you. So keeps her at a distance. And I think there's an interesting parallel we can make with everything with Sarah, and that ends up being what gives Angela the idea of like, yeah, her saying that, it's like, oh, right in front of you, it's like, right, human kind of being someone I care about. So I don't know if that's her being like, yeah, like every once in a while, like I wipe your memory of us and then I restore your memory of us every once in a while, or make you forget that we saw each other tonight. I don't know what she's wiping her memory of, but like I said, because they've had long enough history that I don't know what she's doing when she's kind of glamoring her, but it gave her the idea to glamour Sarah. It's like the easy way to go after Reginald is get the person closest to him to get him when the opportunity arises. So, oh yeah, I almost forgot too that Reginald had that dream. Like he had the dream of him and Sarah, and it's like, oh, like we're happy, we're in love, and like the moment I was like, oh, she has Nikki's haircut. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, are you combining? Because at first I thought what was going to happen is it's going to start off as Sarah and then slowly over the course of the dream turn into Nikki. But it's like, no, it just turned into like Nikki popping up and then both being there, original stuck in the middle yet again between these two. And it's like, what's going on here? And he's like, that's a weird ass dream. And then Nikki being at his door, I thought like, oh, did she like incept your dream or something? She shows up with a gift and it's like, wait, is this the heart that belongs to someone I know? It's like, no. Well, she's like, well, you'll have to wait for your mail. I'm like, Jesus, stop just killing people, Nikki. She's just like killing tons of like, even the guy she was serving like drinks to at the bar, like when Reginald was leaving with Sarah, she like took that guy's dead head. I'm assuming he was dead and waved it to Reginald. I'm like, you're just killing people left and right. Cause even that was Maurice's concern. Like Angela, like, yeah, she's psychotic and she's just gonna like, you let her loose on the town. And like, yeah, she's just killing people just as an excuse to keep close to Reginald, So I was like, man. But either way, her whole thing is like, right, she wants them to kind of be a thing. She even said this line of like, 3 isn't that big. So I guess there was some part of her almost being like, I can kind of share you, willing to share you. I think she could like get herself to that point. But she was like, oh, just us being the two? He's like, no, I'm in a relationship. And she's like, all right, Reginald, but what's inside of you is too precious. I have to protect it from the others. It's something kind of just for me. So she's like, I'll give you time. Cause I mean, it's like normally she's like, yeah, I have all the time in the world, but like, she's like, no, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make Reginald mine today. So, but, when Sarah and, Reginald are about to do their thing, sadly it kicks in and, she's trying to kill Reginald with a stake. And luckily Nikki saves his life and, it's like, right, she was going to kill Sarah because she's like, yeah, I've killed vampire slayers before. She's like, but I think she was like, yeah, but what was it? She was saying like, I don't think it was an actual vampire slayer. Maybe it was an amateur vampire slayer. She was like, yeah, specifically it was like, she was referencing something from the comics. So I'm like, and they end up referencing Buffy, but I'm like, was a comic she read Buffy? Because I know Angel, like I know after like the show got canceled, I know Angel continued as a comic. I don't remember Buffy did though. Like if there's like continuations like Angel, like, I mean, you'd assume if there was Angel continuations, there might have been Buffy continuations, or maybe they're just comic book adaptations of the Buffy stuff, or maybe they're just been side content. I don't know. I'm sure there are Buffy comics out there. Either way, I'm wondering, is that what she was specifically pulling from, or was there some other comic book she was kind of referencing about vampire slayers? Either way, now it puts him in this, Reginald in this awkward situation, because now it's like, no, there's no way Sarah's an actual vampire slayer, but now it's like, cool, I was about to have sex with my girlfriend, but now it turns out my girlfriend tried to kill me, but then I ultimately get saved by my vampire stalker, so cool. And then, Nikki gives her blood to him to calm him down, and then they kind of get caught up in the moment. Like, she's biting her neck and she's kind of feeling it. So, and about to get to some kissing at the end. So it's like, oh, dude, this is going to get so complicated. Because who knows how long, like well, I think the glamours last as long as you have them until they accomplish what you need them to. Because it's like, yeah, Todd, I think Reginald kept like re-glamoring him. So I don't know if there's like a, because I think some stuff is touched on, like a glamour can only last so long. Maybe, oh, I keep saying glamour. I meant, wait, yeah, glamour is the right word. Because once again, I'm always conflating that because in the, in this show, it's glamour. Obviously, in the Vampire Diaries, it's called compulsion. But maybe it only lasts like 24 hours or something like that. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where the hell this all ends up taking. It's like, oh, Reginald's in a very complicated spot. I had brought that up before because it's like, right, here's the girl that you're in love with. Complicated thing is she's human, not unless you make her a vampire. Then there's Nikki, who is a vampire, but she's also psycho, but she's in love with you. And it seems like you think she's cool and there's kind of a vibe there, but then it's also kind of sad too because Ashley's really into Nikki, so you kind of want him to choose Sarah, especially because like Sarah's got this whole backstory that like we're touching on a little bit here and there, but that's going to become more of a forefront. Not unless we end up finding out like the group that she's a part of is a vampire hunting thing and it just happened to be chance that this all worked out like this. I don't know if that's the route they're going to go down. Like I said, that just kind of me throwing it out there because they're like, oh, they're playing with the notion of like she's a vampire slayer, but it's like, no, like Angela compelled her to do that, glamored her to do it. But I'm like, what if this actually had something to do with the church and stuff that she was a part of? The cult she was a part of. We have no idea what that's fully about. So I just feel like we're not done with that, but maybe we are because Reginald sent her brother back and that might be enough. I don't know. I'm curious what Angela's going to do now that this plan C kind of failed. But the problem is it did complicate things too because now Reginald's probably like doesn't know if he could fully trust Sarah because it's like, oh, like maybe she is a vampire slayer, but then finding out like, oh, maybe she was just glamored but it's still going to be the awkward thing if she tried to kill me. So sadly, Reginald still walks away a virgin. But it's like, I'm so curious to see how this works out. This little interesting, complicated love trauma triangle. I love me. Well, I always feel bad in romantic situations because I'm like, oh, like there is a part of me that's like, I want you to obviously just want you to be Sarah because I think you're meant to be. But I'm also like, but this Nikki situation is really interesting. And once again, she's becoming my favorite character because I love her how psychotic she is. So it's like I actually don't know now. I'm so split on who I want to be. I'm leaning more 60, it's like 70-30. It's like the Nikki thing is just that, like, just because of the craziness of it. But the Sarah, it's because it's like it's true love and everything. But it's like, I mean, I've watched some shows where some pairings did not go the route I thought they would. And they ended up staying that way. I was like, oh, that's going to ended up getting undone. And it's like, without spoiling anything, there's some Grimm there's a main relationship in the show Grimm that I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's also interesting too, considering like the real life pairing and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's so hilarious that the storyline went down the route it did. But either way, it just ended up being a relationship that I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. And I'm actually like, yeah, I'm all about this relationship that was born from this very interesting, complicated thing. But either way, like I said, putting that aside, I'm just interested to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.